Wow, I can't whistle. Anyway, it's holy crap, it's week 7 of the GBA. Season is moving right along. We are 4-2, plus 14, and this week we're going up against Mulvo 19 and Cincinnati Loudreds, who are 5-1, plus 8. Got off to a fantastic start. Hit a bump in the road last week in the immediate rematch against Hank the Pidgey. But he's got a lot of 4X weaknesses on his team, so we're going to see what we can do to maybe prey on those. So far, it hasn't really stopped him at all from doing exceptionally well. So, let's take a peek at what he has here. We got Mega Manectric, Forretress, Talonflame, Gliscor, Keldeo, Ordinary Form, but, you know, people hack, so I expect it'll still have Sacred Sword. And Weavile, who is currently the League MVP. We do not see Zygarde, Vivillon, Gallade, Dragalge, or Gastrodon, so kind of throwing away the slow pokes. No actual slow poke family intended, but throwing away all the slow stuff. He's got Forretress, which is pretty slow, and then beyond that, the slowest thing on his team is Gliscor base 95. That was definitely the first thing I noticed, is that, wow, this team is stupidly fast. Let's see, he's got 7 things. 7 things, right? Yeah, 7 things that are, well, I guess Vivillon's base 89. Pretty much it's kind of striated. Gallade and up is fast, and then the remaining 3 things are slow. But, yeah, he's got a lot of fast things on there. His 4 fastest things are still above base 100, so pretty much what I decided to do this week was I don't think there's much point in trying to do outspeedy things with Scarfs, etc., because he has Mega Manectric, which is, you know, I think going to outspeed, you know, most things I would Scarf. Maybe not Scarf Nidoking, but I would feel a little bit leery about Scarf Nidoking if I'm locking myself in the Earth Power when he's got a couple of ground immunes. And beyond that, stuff has priority. He's got Priority Bird and Ice Shard from Weavile, most of which is going to be a problem for things that I would do stuff on. Also, Rock Polish Aggron, I believe, is unable to go past Mega Manectric. It's kind of at the Crobat barrier, I think. So, and Mega Manectric is above the Crobat barrier. So, there you go. So, because of that, we're going to go with a more, you know, defensive approach. But this team is kind of going to be 2 utility guys and then 4 tanks. So, let's take a look at them right now. First off, actually, we're just going to go ahead and look at the 2 utility guys. Let's look at the tanks first, actually, since that's more interesting than utility guys are there to support them. So first off, we want Stealth Rock somewhere on the team because he has a Talonflame, and also because Weavile, I want to, you know, minimize that thing switch-ins. Weavile, as it turns out, is actually deceptively bulky. I feel like people, and when I say deceptively bulky, I feel like people kind of have the idea of, oh, you know, I'm going to click Quick Attack with a Sylveon, and it's probably going to die because it's that frail. Well, no, it's not actually that frail, especially on the special side. When you actually go in and start doing the calcs, you'll see that Weavile is, in fact, not one-hit KO'd by every move in the game. Many moves will, but not every move. And even some, like, stab moves or some super effective non-stab moves will not take it out in one hit. So, anyway, Nidoking is here, and Nidoking, this is one of the reasons I like Nidoking better than Nidoqueen in this format, is yes, I have the option to go with an offensive set, and I generally will. However, I also have the capacity to run a physically defensive set, which is what this is this week. It is, in fact, Bold Max, so it's going to be able to take hits that, you know, you probably do not expect Nidoking to take, and then fire back off with something, because it's, you know, still got sheer force and good attack stats with 3 attacks, which are, I believe there was no need for poison, so I just decided to go with Earth Power and Ice Beam, because he's got Zygarde and Gliscor, 2x weak to ice, or 4x weak to ice, sorry. And then I ended up going with Superpower because, believe it or not, Brick Break off 0 special attack bold still doesn't one-hit KO Weavile guaranteed, and I just could not have that. That would be the ultimate facepalm if you don't kill Weavile with a 4x effective move. And then Stealth Rock because somebody's got to get up Stealth Rock, and I'll probably want to just lead with him. We'll see. Next up, now you guys know I've used Bliss quite a bit, and we have not gotten to use the Bliss that I prefer to use, and this is the Bliss that I prefer to use, which is, you got to put the 252 in defense, of course, but then where else do those remaining 252 go? You know, HP, well, it's already got a bajillion HP. Special defense, it's already going to take special defense hits pretty well. So let's throw them into special attack. We are modest max special attack Blissey, coming in, you know, with soft boil for longevity and whatnot. We got 3 attacks. We got Ice Beam, because 2 things are 4x weak to Ice Beam. We got Flamethrower to roast Forretress, and we have Grass Knot to make this a pretty safe switch into Gastrodon, which is, you know, not going to be brought. I really wanted to bring Serene Grace to try to get 20% burn procs, but I figured, if, you know, Gliscor and or Gastrodon have Toxic, I would like to be able to remove those without needing to use Heal Bell, so ended up going with Natural Cure. Dusknoir's got Assault Vest this week, and he's actually, I believe, near max specially defensive. The main thing he's going to be trying to do, well, first off, he can take on Mega Manectric pretty well, being, you know, Assault Vest's max special defense is pretty good. And he's also quite capable of taking on Keldeo, as he's going to be immune to whatever the Super Sword attack is. Sacred Sword, I think, right? Yeah, Secret Sword is the one that more stuff actually gets. And then specially defensive, so he can endure things like Hydro Pumps. I think I went with Pressure to potentially get Hydro Pump out of PP. And also because I figured, most of these items are probably going to be pretty self-explanatory for most of these pokes, so Pressure it is. And then his moveset I debated on for a long time. I really wanted Earthquake so that he could, you know, take on Mega Manectric a little bit better. But in the end I decided, you know, I think I actually need all 4 elemental punches. He's my dedicated switch into Fortress to spin block. That was another major role I wanted him to do. And of course I want Fire Punch so I can, you know, beat up on Fortress. I want Ice Punch because, again, Gliscor and Zygarde I don't want doing, you know, their thing. And I also need Thunder Punch for Keldeo, because if he's going to be my Keldeo answer, then he probably needs something that can break Keldeo sub. Someone, I think, in some video comment mentioned Sub-Combine Keldeo, and I was like, yeah, I definitely need to make sure I beat that, because I don't want to lose to a Sub-Combine Keldeo. So, therefore, we're, you know, going to make sure we don't do that. I decided to go with Sneak at the end, just because I didn't have any sort of priority anywhere else on the team. And I wanted some priority somewhere on the team, because this team is very slow, and I think all of his things, except for maybe Gliscor, are going to outspeed everything I have. So, Charizard this week is finally not running Dragon Dance stuff. That's just not been working. It is a bulky Zard this week. It is a no attack at all invested Charizard, which actually works out pretty well with HP Grass, because that lowers attack and special attack, makes those be 30s. So we actually don't lose any points for having HP Grass, which is pretty neat. Kind of mixed from both sides, I believe. Guaranteed, I think, to take under 50% from a Jolly Life Orb Icicle Crash or something like that from Weavile. So actually can wall Weavile acceptably well, especially if it's Life Orb and it's kicking its own butt. It also will endure Mega Manectric pretty well. Even if Manectric packs a super effective hidden power, it will deal under 50% with this EV spread, from a timid one anyway. So that's what Zard is. He's also packing HP Grass. I already said that. We're packing HP Grass so we can do some decent damage to Gastro. Now, however, I do know Gastrodon is he is pretty much the best water ground. He is one of the mascots of the Diamond Brothers, so I know how good Gastro is. But that's why we're running mixed on the attacks. We also have Dragon Claw, which is also there for Dragalge, which is not brought. And I believe, also just to make sure we can get a good hit off on Gallade as well. And we got Flamethrower mostly for Fortress, but also in case, Mega Manectric ends up coming in and intimidates or whatever. I want to make sure we have a stab move that's not lowered by Intimidate. So originally I think I was going to go full special, but Dragon Claw still did more to even like a max defensive Dragalge, so that's what we went with there. So then for the two utility things, we got, not Blissey, we have Vaporeon. Both of these only have their single typical stab, 30% hacks option attack, which is, they both still have 110 or better special attack, so, it's still pretty good. Vaporeon, we got Wish Baton Pass to try to heal up some of these guys who don't have instant recovery, namely Nidoking and Dusknoir. I imagine a Vaporeon Wish would probably just about fully cure Dusknoir, so that's cool. And then Togekiss, I wanted to put Heal Bell on Vaporeon, but I ended up moving it to Togekiss, and that was because of aforementioned Combine Keldeo. I wanted to kind of make sure that nobody was really set up bait for Combine Keldeo, and Vaporeon, being unable to break a sub with Scald, at least Togekiss has super effective stab air slash. That's why I had to put Roar on Vaporeon, so that it was not going to get set up on by Combine Keldeo. And then just to finish off, Togekiss has Defog because we got a couple of guys who are weak to Rock. I'm going to be a little antsy about defogging before Rocks have done their damage to his side, but we'll do what we can. And then of course going to pack Roost for the poor recovery because recovery is good. So that pretty much does it for the team. Let's go ahead and get in to the game. So we're going to start out with Nidoking because I want to get rocks up right away, and the only thing that's going to force him out is going to be Keldeo, which starts out with Talonflame, which Nidoking's definitely going to be able to take a hit from. Unfortunately, I do not have Thunderbolt to just immediately, try to kill the thing. But I do want rocks up because of this thing and because of Weavile, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and take this chance to set him up. The problem here is if it's like a banded Talonflame, it will actually 2-hit KO everything on the team, including Charizard currently, since it's not yet Mega'd. And based on that damage, considering I am a max physically defensive Nidoking, that does look to be a choice banded Talonflame. So at least that's good that it's not going to be a threat to, likely not a threat to Roost or Swords Dance or anything, definitely not Swords Dance or anything like that. But we got rocks up and we got some damage off here, and now I'm kind of in a bit of a bind. It's obviously going to be kamikazing itself out, so it's just kind of what do I want to have to take hits, and what can I afford to lose hit points on, maybe that I can regain hit points on later. I definitely don't want to let Nidoking go down yet. So Blissey's an option because it's got the biggest HP stat, but it's going to get down so low. It's just going to be more or less irreparable damage if I go into Bliss. So I decided to go into Splash Woman, which I really don't like because Splash is kind of the source of healing for everyone else on the team. Well, mostly Nidoking and Dusknoir, but I'm not quite sure how much that damage did right there. It wasn't looking right now, but I was definitely looking during the game to see how much it did. And I think it ends up that depending on the roll, if he gets like a lower roll, I think Splash will survive. If he gets a high roll, I think Splash will die. So I'm kind of have to be mentally prepared to let Splash go down here. I can't just be switching around and having everything on the team at 50%. That's not very good for a tank team, which is kind of what this is. We got 4 tanks and then 2 utility guys, and this is one of the utility guys, and I'm kind of wasting the utility right now, and I kind of hate that. But in the end, I believe I just decided to go in for Scald, as if I do survive, I'd kind of rather just go ahead and take the bird down. So that's what we click, and I ends up switching it out to preserve it for later. It's above 50% currently, so it will be able to come into rocks one more time. And here's this thing, which I imagine would, potentially want to spin before, to save Talonflame and Weavile from taking mad damage. So we do have a dedicated switch into this thing, which is going to be Dusknoir. So that's what I'm going to go into. I believe, based on the damage, is what I'm probably doing here. Looks like it's not going to be an overly specially defensive for it at any rate. So we go into Noir to block spin, but he opts for Volt Switch instead, to which right here I'm like, well, Weavile's going to come in, and, I knew this situation was coming. It's going to be, Pursuit Trap, or Knockoff, which do I predict, etc., etc. It's kind of, again, in a bad spot because Zard can't exactly switch into a Knockoff right now because of rocks, so. However, he just decides to drop in Gliscor instead, which I'm less immediately threatened by, certainly. Or actually, rocks are not up yet, that's right. So Zard would be able to switch in, well, maybe be able to switch into probably into a knockoff. At any rate, I definitely showed no leftovers, but I'm just going to go right in for an Ice Punch and see how much damage we can do. And gets it under half, but that was with some Stealth Rock damage since Poison Heal doesn't activate the turn your Toxic Orb does. So it's not going to 2-hit KO, or it's not going to KO from here, but it would get it down pretty low. And we have rocks up on my side now, which is definitely a pain because Charizard is not yet Mega'd. If he was already Mega'd, I'd kind of be more okay with it, so we're probably going to want to defog those away at some point. Switches in Keldeo, which is definitely A-okay with me, because this is, Noir is kind of my Keldeo, or one of my Keldeo switch-ins, as I have Thunder Punch. So he's going to set up Sub, so I was correct in expecting he might bring Sub Calm Mind Keldeo. And we're just going to go ahead and break that Sub, and let him know, nope, you're not setting up on Dusknoir, Keldeo. You're not doing it. So don't mess around with threats. I'm just going to right in front of the Thunder Punch as Manectric comes in. Of course, it's got to pick up Lightning Rod boost, but I was pretty sure I might be walking into that. But again, don't mess around with threats. And in this case, I've got a contingency plan. That Lightning Rod is going to be a one-time effect, pretty much. He's not going to run through my team because I have a Bliss at full HP. So I'm just going to switch into Bliss right now, and then whatever he does, he's going to be pretty much forced to leave, since Mega Manectric at +1 is still not going to be able to beat out Bliss. So Bliss comes in, and then as soon as he leaves, he loses his capacity to pull the Lightning Rod stunt again, and, all well and good. Volt Switch does slightly more than I guess I would have liked, but it is at +1, so, and it is a non-specially defensive invested whatsoever Blissey. So, we're still at a usable range of hit points, though, and drops in Weavile now, which is going to take rocks damage, And we do have modest max special attack Flamethrower, but even a modest max special attack Flamethrower is still not going to be able to pick up a KO on a Weavile. It's at 75% HP. This is why I actually kind of thought about running Life Orb Blissey. As hilarious as that would be. Taking 33 points of Life Orb recoil, might I add. But we could soft boil. But then I thought about soft boiling just in case he knocked off, and then we take less damage. But I think it's going to be a 2 KO either way. Let's just go right in for Flamethrower. I just want Bliss to just pop a Flamethrower on somebody. Just throw out some modest max special attack moves on somebody. And in this case, it's going to be Weavile. So we're just going to roast some Weavils right here and see how much damage we can do. Hopefully it'll at least get it down low enough to where Noir can finish off with Sneak. And he pops a Swords Dance. So very good thing I didn't go for Soft Boiled. No burn hacks or anything. Kind of wish I had brought Serene Grace, but what can we do at this point? Something is definitely going to be dying. And it's going to be a question of what do I value least? If it's Swords Dance, it's probably Life Orb, so it looks like he's at about 10%. Nothing else, it's definitely going to be in range for Dusknoir to bring in Revenge Kill. So I think Sneak should do about 11% minimum. So what do I need the least? And in the end I decide, well, I kind of needed Bliss most as a Gastrodon switch in, and Gastrodon's not here. Ice Beam is still certainly very helpful against Gliscor, but it's not going to be able to take on Keldeo or anything like that at all. So we're just going to end up deciding that Bliss is probably the least useful thing on the team right now. Certainly would have been nice to have for Mega Manectric, but if I can actually get Charizard in and Mega'd up, he should be able to take on Mega Manny pretty well, as will Dusknoir, although Dusknoir doesn't have the capacity to regenerate HP. So we double down here, and this is a very pivotal play in the game. I want to drop in Charizard and get him Mega'd up, but if he drops in Keldeo, then I can't do that, and then I'm forced to leave or lose Charizard. And then by the time Charizard comes in again, if I don't have rocks all blown away yet, he's going to come in at 1 HP. So not what I want to do, and unfortunately I end up with the worst possible double down drop in matchup right here, as I'm thinking about maybe defogging rocks away, or doing something. But yeah, Beat was a terrible choice here, as Mega Manectric is here, and fast electric types ever since Thunder Wave is now not effective on electric types. Fast electric types kind of completely counter Togekiss, so there's really nothing I can do right here, and we'll have to see what I can do. Well, there's nothing I can do, so I'll have to do something that's, there is no great play right here. I guess Dusknoir would be an okay switch in, but I believe this might be where I pull a pivot switch. We'll see. His time is getting down pretty low. Yes, this is where I pull a pivot switch. So I drop in Nidoking expecting an electric attack. The thing here is that I don't want Dusknoir to come in and take a Thunderbolt, because he's Assault Vest and he's max special defense, but I don't want him losing too much HP because it's not looking super likely I'm going to be able to pass HP back into him with Wish. So now that we've gotten this pivot off, now I expect he's probably going to reveal his hidden power, either ground or ice, something along those lines. And now we have to go into Skullman. I think he was thinking it might be Scarfed, so brings in Talonflame. And I have Shadow Sneak, but Talonflame is Priority Bird, so once again, somebody has to eat a Brave Bird, which at this rate is going to be a suicidal Brave Bird, but, what can you do? I'd kind of rather it not be Dusknoir, because his HP are not replenishable, and I think I end up deciding actually to sacrifice King here, as it's not going to outspeed anything he's got left. It will not be outspeeding anything on his entire team. Splash is pretty low, so I kinda doubt I'm gonna be able to pass HP into it, and it just took too much damage from that initial Brave Bird on the first turn to really be able to live much of anything else. Maybe a Gliscor Earthquake with the Shuka Berry, but based on the range of HP it was at right there, I'm not even super confident that it wouldn't take that. Probably would, but whatever. Anyway, so Nidoking's down. Was not gonna be outspeeding any. Oh, I guess it would outspeed Forretress, but whatever. So, once again, we got another double down here, and he's going to drop into Gliscor, I'm going to drop into Dragoon, and this is kind of, well, I decided, alright, last time, I should have dropped in Dragoon, because it would have been able to, handle Mega Manectric, would have got Mega'd up, probably would have went immediately for Roost, as his, even if it was a super effective hidden power, would have done under 50%, I'm pretty sure, depending on potentially modest or high rolls, etc. Based on the damage later, I believe it does end up to actually be a modest Mega Manectric, so Just gonna go right in for Roost. I wasn't even sure if I'd outspeed because this is a min speed Charizard, but looks like he's close to min speed Gliscor anyway. And I think Flamethrower actually at that range had a small chance to kill, but I wasn't about to go for it. Go ahead and give me HP back on Charizard, give me my Mega Evolution off, and just kind of go from there. I know Flamethrower is not going to kill anymore, and I believe I'm just going to go into Beat right here because I want to get that Heal Bell off, and I kind of expect he's just going to go in for EQ. I would also kind of like to, at this point, because Talonflame's now gone, because Weavile's now gone, I kind of have no more need for Stealth Rock. I mean, it would be helpful, certainly, but I would at this point, because Weavile and Talonflame are gone, I would rather us neither have rocks than both have rocks. So that's the situation where I think I'm going to be okay going Defog. I thought about Heal Belling right away because I expected he would just go Toxic, but I'm just going to go ahead and just in case he wanted to switch or something, go ahead and make sure we get rocks off the field. Of course, this is also his Stealth Rock setter, so that's an issue too. I think Stealth Rock has more PP than Defog, and Toxic definitely has more PP than does Heal Bell. So yeah, I could potentially try to go for something stupid like just keep Heal Belling until he misses a Toxic or something like that silly. But 90% and I don't know. Gliscor doesn't, despite having Toxic Orb, it does not in fact get stabbed. That is the same type accuracy bonus Toxic. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do here. Air Slash will deal around about probably a third, but Gliscor has all that stupid HP recovery with Poison Heal, so not really going to be that effective. We do have a couple of ice moves left in the team. We got Ice Punch, Dusknoir. Well, actually, we have Blissey and Nidoking down, and those both had our source of Ice Beam. So it's kind of down to Ice Beam or Ice Punch Dusknoir to really be our main way of killing this thing. I mean, this thing is probably not going to be able to kill anything quickly, but this is probably the as I was looking at it, I was like, oh, if we have any chance at a timeout, it's probably gonna be the fault of Gliscor, because Gliscor and Fori are kind of his, and I guess Gastrodon are kind of his only like main dedicated walls. They all have 4x weaknesses too. So I think at some point here I'm gonna decide to go into Vaporeon. Yeah, it's gonna be this turn to kind of not attempt to have a stalemate here, as I was pretty sure he's just gonna set up rocks again. And here I can kind of threaten it out with Scald. It's another super effective, powerful move. Should do well over half. And should do okay damage to whatever wants to come in. If Keldeo wants to come in, then I guess that's fine too. We have a burn chance. We do have Roar. And I kind of expect he might want to try to set up on Vaporeon, since, setting up on water types is a thing that definitely worked 2 weeks ago. So, but in that meantime, I'll just be sitting here gaining lefties. But I'm definitely going to be content to click Scald right here and see what wants to come in, which is going to be Keldeo. As oh, that's right, we actually set up Wish because I want to get HP back. Definitely get HP back up on Vaporeon, just in case he decided to stay in and go for EQs, etc., which wouldn't do too awfully much. So we should have full HP incoming on the next turn. But here, because Keldeo's in, I'm really hoping that he wants to go for sub, and he does. Get that sub out of my face. I am not an Alamomola, Molvone. I have Roar with Vaporeon. So, unfortunately though, a bit of another problem is that he's got 3 things that I could have roared him into, and it roared it into the worst possible one. So, kind of the opposite problem I had in Season 3 against Adam, where I think Suicune roared him into the perfect thing, Mega Aggron, like 3-4 times in a row. I don't know, something crazy. But unfortunately, Splash has roared into the worst possible thing it could have roared into. So, Magnedragoon, however, is now Mega'd off, so that's pretty good. And unfortunately, between rocks and what I believe to be a modest Thunderbolt, it's able to take HP super effective and probably take under half from it. But unfortunately, I am already at under half. So I'm just going to stay in a roost, and we'll see how we go. And we'll see what happens. He does Hidden Power, but thankfully it is not super effective. I think it ended up to be HP Ice, which I think he meant to bring HP Ground, and he got the wrong Hidden Power on it. So, kind of lucked out right there, otherwise Charizard likely would have been dead. But, I think I just want to get HP back up to full. Yeah, I just want to go ahead and get back up to full HP. This thing's back at full HP, and, here, once again, we could do a couple of things. I don't have a fantastic way to take this thing down. I kind of just need to do some other stuff. He's potentially going to EQ, potentially going to, Toxic. I'd imagine Toxic would probably come first, although neither would be effective to Togekiss right now, since Togekiss is still toxic itself and is, of course, flying over the stuff. So we're going to go into Splash and make, I guess, the most offensive switch that I could make, as we take Earthquake and take it pretty alright. And we're kind of back to where we started with, now, however, I'm going to not go for Wish. I'm just going to go straight in for Scald and see what he opts to go for. He goes for an offensive switch himself, which is going to be going into Mega Manectric, and Scald still does quite a good chunk. I think it does roughly 40-ish%, something like that. Enough that I feel like a second one definitely should have a shot to kill it at any rate. What did it take? Like 2, maybe 3 bouts of Stealth Rock, and then the rest was Scald damage. So I think if we can get into this cycle, I'll eventually be able to come out on top because of the Scalding on the Manectric switch in. So once again, Dragoon's going to come in, and here, however, he's going to Volt Switch out. And I don't quite know if Vaporeon could have taken Volt. I think I might could have taken a Volt Switch at that range, but here's Keldeo instead, and this is kind of where stuff gets starting to get dicey. You know, we had 2 fairly early KOs, and then from there it's kind of been 4-4, kind of seeing who's gonna make the first drop, who's gonna end up with something going bad in their favor first. And here I know I'm not gonna live a Hydro Pump. I would probably live a Scald, okay, but I would kind of rather him not start setting up Calm Minds or subs or whatever. I could go into Vaporeon, potentially expecting a water move, and then proceed to probably just immediately roar him out, but then I might end up roaring him into Mega Manectric again. So what I ultimately decide to do, as much as I kind of hate to do it, is just click Dragon Claw, see how much it does. He Sacred Swords, so it would have been better to go into Dusknoir certainly, and gets him down pretty low. I was pretty sure it was not going to kill, and certainly it did not kill. And now, unfortunately, unless I can defog, Dragoon is dead on entry. And that's pretty bad, because Dragoon is kind of my preferred thing to take on the Mega Manectric, especially now that I know that it does not have a hidden power that's super effective to Charizard. So, bleh. Kind of don't like that I stayed and went for Dragon Claw there, but, I guess it was just trying to make sure Keldeo doesn't set up, but certainly Dusknoir, well, in hindsight, obviously Dusknoir would have been the better play, switching on a Secret Sword. But I am going to switch it on Dusknoir now, basically hoping that, he saw that, oh, Secret Sword, that 2-hit KO'd, I'll just go for it again, rather than switching up moves and going for Scald. So there are emergency sirens in the background that you might or might not be able to hear. And here I'm going to sneak, and I just knew it wasn't going to kill. And then he Scalds, and he gets a burn. So I had it he was at like 20%. I had sneak calc'd at like 18%. I was pretty sure it wasn't going to kill. Probably should have just went for Thunder Punch, but I figured, well, 2 sneaks will kill. If I get a crit Shadow Sneak, then I save myself taking Scald damage. Should've just went for T-Punch, I guess. But now Noir is burned. I guess it would have been burned either way. But now I am not even sure that it'll kill from that range, as it'll probably end up doing like 9% max right here. So I end up switching out and going into Togekiss here, and I probably should have just went into Vaporeon to take Scald. That would have been smart. I Theory Mon for a while after the end of the game. I was trying to think how stuff was going to be shaken out differently. But as you might have noticed there, I was at 120 after Stealth Rock. I took exactly 60 from his Scald, so if I can get a little bit lower of a roll, it doesn't have to be a low roll necessarily. If I can get a little bit lower of a roll, then might be able to pull off one final move here. And I gotta decide, okay, if I do get the move off, what's it gonna be? Because I certainly am only gonna get one move off. I could just Air Slash, go for a kill, but that's not, I think, what I want to do. In the end, it doesn't matter because I die anyway, but I think I went Defog so that Charizard had a chance to maybe come in on Forretress or somebody, I don't know, over the Heal Bell, which actually might have gone Heal Bell to clear Noir's burn. But anyway, Splash is in here again, and at this point, it looks like if he plays his cards right, he's probably got it. So I'm just going to go Scald here, and, it's not going to break a sub, but at the same time, he can't sub right now because he's got not enough hit points. And it should do more than lefties, and maybe we can get a burn. So here comes a Secret Sword, gets a crit, so that's great. But we do Scald, and it doesn't KO, but thankfully we do get a burn, which, in the end, I guess, kind of makes up for his burn on Dusknoir, since if he didn't get a burn with Noir, or on Noir, I probably would have just stayed in and sneaked again, which I completely did not. I believe Mega Manectric is going to clean up from here. I didn't point that out when I did switch out. So the reason I switched out with Dusknoir after I got burned was I figured, okay, that's just going to be a good opportunity to go into Gliscor, take nothing from Shadow Sneak, and then he can probably, after the burn damage, and I don't have lefties, of course, for recovery, he can probably, I'm burned, so Ice Punch isn't that big of a threat. It was doing under half anyway. He can probably just Earthquake and finish off Dusknoir that way and have no risk of losing his Keldeo. So that's why I switched into Vaporeon right there. Or switched into... No, I switched into... See, that was the thing. I should have went into Vaporeon. I went into Togekiss. So it was... I had, like, a reasoning behind it, but it was still a dumb play. So, bit of a poor play there. But, Dragoon's going to come in and die to Rocks. That's going to be the game. So, thankfully, Vappy was able to pick up that burn to get us one more KO. But we do end up going down 3-0 to the Loudreds. So, despite that actually being my largest differential loss of the season, it is definitely my favorite loss, if that term makes any sense, of the season. As other than that, we have the 0-1 against Crimson, which was the facepalm, Charizard, what do you do in game? And then the 0-2 to John, which was the terrible game, where I did not play like myself and sort of mentally checked out midway through the game, which was just dumb. So, this game wasn't like that at all. It was pretty evenly matched on both sides. No one made a big blunder in game anyway. Wrong hidden powers aside. I'm not sure which one it was. If it was like HP Ice, then that's still at least a logical hidden power to bring. But anyway, and I actually could have theoretically worked out better against Nidoking since I did have Shuka Berry instead of Yacha Berry. But, whenever you have a pretty evenly matched game like that, typically it's going to be a couple plays here or there that are going to determine the outcome. And I guess the two I would key in on would be the first double down, which was Weavile and Blissey, wherein I dropped in Togekiss and he dropped in Mega Manectric. Complete advantage for him, and, a big momentum bonus right there. I was sort of able to work around it, but, it would have been nice to get Charizard in and go ahead and get the Mega Evolution off for later, certainly. Although if he had been modest and actually super effective hidden power might have been a problem, but, it ended up to not be the case, so I guess whatever. And then later in the game, when, I don't know, it might have already been out of reach at this point, but I went into Togekiss instead of Vaporeon to take a Scald. Instead of, getting hit points back, I decided to lose hit points on Togekiss, which was also going to take Stealth Rock damage. So, kind of questionable right there. Not a complete and total blunder, but probably still the overall worst play, I guess, I made going down the stretch. It certainly sucked losing both Nidoking and Blissey, which were the two carriers of Ice Beam, and both of whom kind of were the best things to deal with Gliscor, as they had workarounds for Toxic, and Nidoking had the Shuka Berry to deal with Earthquakes. So, that would have been a potential alternate route to go by, but, I don't know. Other than that, I really have no major complaints. There wasn't a ton of hacks, a little bit at the end, yes, but, with burning Dusknoir, which, if I hadn't gotten burned, I would have stayed and went for another sneak. And then I don't think the crit Sacred Sword on Vaporeon mattered whatsoever. That probably would have been a 2-hit KO anyway. Maybe if I had actually played it smart and actually switched in and got the Water Absorb HP back, maybe then it would have mattered, but then you got different RNGs going on anyway. And then I think in the end, I think the Scald burn from Vaporeon basically made up for the Scald burn onto Dusknoir. So I think those two pretty much just cancel out and the crit was relevant. So it's mostly a hacks-free game, so that's cool to see. Anyway, I guess we'll have an MVP, even though I don't really think there was any major standout poke in the game. Not really from my side. Mega Manectric certainly cleaned up at the end, but so I think I'm actually gonna give this to Talonflame just for putting on the pressure early. I only got one KO, but the big thing that it did do was it put multiple things in ranges of HP where it kind of caused problems for me. I got Stealth Rock up with Nidoking, but then Nido wasn't able to kind of live anything else that we had going on, and I kind of ended up just sacking it off. It basically only got up Stealth Rock. Also, after Vaporeon got put down that low of HP, I really did not think I was going to be able to get it back up to full HP, but I actually did some way or another. So pretty much is going to conclude it for this. So, good game, Mulvone, and if I'm going to lose one of the last four, would probably prefer to lose this one, as Mulvone probably has a playoff spot already locked up, and it's an out-of-conference game, so, him making the playoffs has no bearing on me making the playoffs directly, whereas we got a couple of division and conference games coming up in the coming weeks. We're going to take a look at a pretty important conference game, actually, is coming up next week. And that's going to be against A-Drive, Dan, the St. Louis Rampardos, sitting at 6-1 plus 12 atop the Pearl Division. You can see there we are 4-3 plus 11, still atop the Diamond Division. So I think we have both been atop each of our respective divisions since the start of the season, which is kind of interesting. There's been no lead change in either of those Sinnoh Conference divisions. We are only one differential back, despite having lost 2 more games than him. Which, how are we 1 game above 500 with plus 11 differential? That's a little bit silly. Anyway, so as for sort of the results around the rest of the league and how it affects the playoff race, mostly in the Sinnoh Conference anyway. So as you saw, we lost the 2 Cellar Dwellers in the conference, unfortunately. Tup and Crimson, I believe they both lost, so I think that will just about officially mark the end of their playoff run. So we're trying to fit 4 people into 3 spots. It looks like, based on remaining schedule, Dan probably is going to have his division title wrapped up, at least compared to Shady, who has, I think, a little bit more difficult schedule on hand, as do we. We have, myself and Shady probably have the toughest last 3 weeks out of anybody, as I've got Dan, and then followed by John, and then Miguel. So, speaking of John and Miguel, so we lost this week, so that opens the door for John, who is 1 game back. And apparently he just cannot beat Miguel if he knows what happiness works out to be. So John went down at the hands of Miguel this week, so opened the door, but he wasn't able to walk through it and tie up the Diamond Division race. So he's going to be sitting at 3-4, and we're still sitting okay. We're in the lead of the Diamond Division, but what that does mean is it's looking less and less likely. It's not mathematically eliminated yet, but it's looking very unlikely that the Diamond Division is going to get more than 1 representative into the playoffs. But it's still theoretically possible. We got Shady is sitting at 5-2, and he has a very difficult last 3 weeks, so it is definitely possible that he might drop those last 3 games and finish at 5-5. And if Shady finishes 5-5, then certainly either myself or John, at fewer than 5 losses currently, might be able to squeak in. So it's possible. Is it likely? Probably not, but we'll see. Definitely at least one of us is going to get in. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much been it for this video. See you guys next week for another clash of division leaders. 2 weeks in a row. Good grief. Hope you guys enjoyed the silliness we had at the start and later days.